Are you hungry? A figure like mine needs constant attention, Mrs. Racer. I'm Liam, he's Rob, and welcome to the Hey Guys podcast. This week, we are looking back at one of the strangest and, in many respects, most ambitious mainstream pop culture movies of the 21st century. The Wachowski Speed Racer might not be for everyone, but after unsurprisingly disappointing receipts at the box office and receiving a decidedly mixed critical response, it has since gone on to become something of a cult classic, both amongst audiences and filmmakers alike. With its avant-garde visuals and pop art design aligning with an array of aggressive and often inventive cuts, wipes, fades, transitions, crash zooms, and utterly unique camera work on a purely aesthetic level, there is nothing quite like 2008 Speed Racer. And honestly, your mileage with this movie might well depend largely upon your ability to get on with its utterly unique visual styling. Ranging wildly between wonderfully gorgeous and oddly ugly, this is a movie that resolutely refuses to do things by halves. Still, nearly 20 years after its release, if you can embrace its distinctive aesthetic and stream of consciousness storytelling style, then you are likely to find plenty to like about this often confounding but always oddly enthralling adaptation of Tatsuo Yoshida's 1966 manga. Now, Rob, I remember seeing this in the cinema in 2008. I was excited for it in the build-up. You know, I was a big Wachowski's fan going back to Bound and then the Matrix trilogy and everything. And I always liked the idea of Speed Racer, even though it was never as big a thing in the UK as it was in the States. I remember genuinely loving this movie, despite its faults when I watched it in 2008. Coming back to it now, I feel much the same way. I still really enjoy this film, but if you tell me now that you just don't get on with it, I'm like, I get it. I totally get it.
I mean, you said might not be for everybody. I don't know if it's for anyone. I'm not turning around and saying I hated this movie. I'm not slagging it off.
Mm-hmm.
I had a ride with this movie. Honestly,
it's an experience. It is an experience.
I don't think there's many movies that I've instigated text conversation with you whilst I'm watching it, and this was one of them. As I was watching it, I was just saying things that we will get into as we carry on. I did watch it I don't think I watched it in the cinema. I think I caught it on DVD or whatever it was after. Didn't overly dislike it, but didn't really latch on to anything for it. And that probably could be because I thought I was on some weird acid trip. Going back to watching it again this time, had fun with it. Clearly can see that some of the animation is outdated. And again, I'll get into that as we go on. But what I like, and I've said this to you many times before, I like a big swing. I do like a big swing.
Yeah, same here.
But Jesus, this is a big swing. And I appreciate that the Wachowskis didn't try and tone it down, didn't try and stop the absurdity. They doubled down on the absurdity. And everything, because it's a 60s cartoon, it's Japanese manga, and it's basically the absurdity is real. Not just the racing, but like Racer X being my brother, but not my brother, but is my brother. And the thing that made me laugh even more is cold milk. Everything at the end is having that cold milk.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's taken directly from the Indy 500, though, isn't it? Where they actually drink cold milk at the end of the race instead of champagne. Is that new to you? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the Indy 500 where, they drink cold milk at the end of the race. So if you're not aware of that, then the emphasis on cold milk, although Sparky is particularly obsessed with cold milk.
Is there a point in Sparky?
I don't know where Sparky gets his moment at the end of this film, because it all builds up to him having that moment when Speed Racer's car is broken down. Sparky's on the radio and it's like, dude, it's your time to shine. And he completely shits the bed. I'm just he's been pretty useless the entire movie, to be honest.
This entire film, the look of this film is insane. They all live in CGI houses. They race on, everything is CGI.
Yeah. But of course, yeah.
Does Sparky live with them?
Yeah, well, they've got one of the strangest households in cinema history. So, yeah, we'll get to the aesthetics in a minute. But if we deal with the family themselves, the Racer family.
The Racers, yeah.
Pop Racer, Mom Racer, that's literally what they're called. It's like, I don't know who Sparky is to them. I was like, I guess he's the mechanic and he just lives with them. But then you have to remember, they also keep the car in the house, not in the garage. Yeah. It's just in the house, living room. And you're like, well, that's weird. But then you're like, well, they also live with a monkey. Chim Chim is never explained. It's just Well, I
He's
guess
there. Yeah.
we just live with the monkey, which of course makes
Although,
the CG all the more important. I was like, I wonder how many times a child was actually standing next to a monkey when they were filming this. I'm guessing basically never.
Chim Chim cookies made me laugh, I must admit.
I
I'm going to
mean,
send that guy
it's
some
the
Chim Chim
low-hanging
cookies. It is
fruit
no
of
hanging
comedy.
fruit. But to just say I'm going to send him some Chim Chim cookies and they actually follow through with it. It's like
They did.
Chekhov's Chim Chim cookie. You've mentioned it. Somebody is getting shit to the face.
And you know it's
And,
going to be Royalton. Of course it's going
well,
to
it
be.
wasn't Royalton, was it? It was the Dick Tracy villain.
Oh, no, of course it was the Dick Tracy villain. Yeah, well, of course, the British betting syndicate. And we'll get to that in a minute because I think that's one of the weakest elements of this film. Is basically the storytelling.
What was the point in Sub-Zero as well? He had the weirdest arc. Not Sub-Zero, not Sub-Zero, Scorpion.
No,
yeah, because he's like, oh, well, if you can get their company, I'll sell you my reactors thing. But then that worked out for him. But at the end, and I'm jumping straight to the end, when Royston or Royalton or whatever his name is found out, he just shakes his head and he walks away like, I'm so disappointed in your getting caught for your double dealings that we made a double deal on.
Well, that's the weakest element of this film. The fact that so much of it, bizarrely, because, you can get caught up, and I think I was the first time I watched this movie. If you ask me what the story was, I'm just like, I don't really know. I was just kind of caught up in the aesthetic, and that is the most important thing, the aesthetic and those familial relationships, and I do think, it's got such a charming cast, and I do think they have chemistry across the board. But the narrative going on in the background completely passed me by. And even this time watching it, I was like, God, this is more than a little bit kind of, episode one, kind of taxation of trade routes kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's all about playing the stock market. And, if you ask me, what does Rain have to do with these kind of this, I call them a British betting syndicate. I don't think that's what they are. Whoever the fuck those guys are. Every time they're on screen together, there's one moment like towards the end of the film where Rain is dressed like a woman because he's supposedly dressed up as Trixie.
His sister.
His sister. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then they get into this whole kind of altercation. I'm just like, I really don't know what's happening. And they could have just pared that all back because this movie is like 2 hours, 50 minutes long. It's not a short movie. And I'm just like, you need to streamline all this. We know Royalton's the bad guy. He couldn't be more of an obvious kind of cliched evil, whatever, kind of big business guy.
I didn't get that. Sorry, no, I didn't get that thing. Like their plan towards the end as well, where
it's boring.
He gets poisoned, so he can't drive. So Trixie becomes the driver. Trixie pretends to be him. Rain pretends to be his sister. His sister pretends to be Trixie in the helicopter. Also, they can stop in the canyon.
Silly.
Also, they can stop in the canyon that has no cameras. So Rain can now drive. He couldn't drive at the beginning, but now he can drive. So is it out of his system? Why is he going onto the he pretended to be himself to get onto the plane so they could see him. Yeah. So they would kidnap him and bring him there. It's the oddest plan.
And all that is like, basically at the end of it. So you have that big kind of Casa Cristo kind of, showdown. And then you find out Tokugan and Rain. I just keep calling him Rain. Sorry, I appreciate that's not his Trejo Tokugan, whatever his name is. It's like they're just playing the stock market. And you're just like, really? It's just undone everything. And it all just feels so utterly pointless. And the reality of it is, it's like, it's choosing your family and choosing your ethics over the draw of like big business and the money that Royalton offers you. It's just like, that's all the story needs to be. All this other nonsense where you add, and maybe it is just a kind of, commitment to the source material where they feel the need to kind of force these characters in and kind of widen the net in terms of the narrative. But the reality is this movie is all about the visuals. It's all about the aesthetic. And you wanted to keep the narrative streamlined. Like, to use a comparison, I know it's not your favorite kind of film, but everyone complains, say Avatar, which came out a year after this, which actually got me, because when I was watching this, I was like, did I watch this in 3D? Surely this was a 3D movie. And then I remember, it's like, no, this was 2008. Nobody did 3D until Avatar, which came out a year later. But everyone complains with Avatar when it first came out, was, it's just Fern Gully. And it basically is, or it's, Dances with Wolves, but with blue cat people. And with the first one, at least, James Cameron clearly knew, it's just like, listen, I'm just selling them on a world and I'm selling them on an aesthetic. And I just need the story to play just broadly to everyone. And it did, and that's why it made $2 billion fucking dollars. With this, obviously, it was never going to be as successful as Avatar, but the film was always going to be about the world, about that unique aesthetic. Just make the storyline as straightforward as possible. But no, they add all this nonsense, which completely confuses things and makes the movie at least 20 minutes longer than it needs to be.
You mentioned Royalton as well. Mm-hmm. Good to know his shtick still carries on. Roger Allam, who played Royalton. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything before. And then on the weekend, I watched Tetris, and he plays Robert Maxwell. Well, and he's the same character.
Again, I'm not taking on. Roger Allam does a great job as Royalton in this film, but as soon as he opened the door and spoke his first word, I was evil. Like, oh, he's going for Tim. Basically, they couldn't get Tim Curry. He's just playing Tim Curry. And like I said, he's perfectly good in this film. But when I'm watching it, I'm just like, this film would be like 5% better if Tim Curry was in that role. It just would be.
Do you know who's not good in this film?
Who's that?
Emile Hirsch as Speed. Like they gave him one, I guess, in direct direction, which was just be stoic throughout the entire film, and he stuck with it, and it just doesn't work. His stoicism doesn't work for me. It doesn't, dude.
It's a bit of a thankless task because the character is incredibly one note. He's not particularly great in this movie, but it's not a particularly well-written character, and I think that's just the nature of the character as written for the screen. My problem is with the complete opposite of what we were talking about a few weeks ago. So I remember you were being quite critical of Tom Cruise's race face in Days of Thunder, and I was just like, dude, it's a surprisingly tricky job. You know, they're just sitting in the car, and you're like, look like this is intense. You've got to sell the fact that you're in this car and something's happening out there. And I thought he actually did a pretty good job. And the other end of the spectrum, if you don't get it right, is sadly Emile Hirsch in Speed Racer, where he just purses his lips and that's it. The whole fucking film. Every time he's in a car, and it's so much more important in this movie because so much of the storytelling is done during the races. And it comes down to what I was talking about earlier with those cuts, those fades, those transitions, that unique editing, which allows this movie to deliver unique storytelling where the race is going on and the characters are interacting as the race happens. There's
a lot of talking between racers whilst they're racing, which is insane. And the dialogue is awful. The one thing that Emile Hirsch says, or Speed says, is okay, Mr. Two-time future Hall of Famer, show me something. Like, whatever he said, that weird line is
it
fucking
didn't
awful.
really land. But and that was, again, one of those issues. But
the entire race, you mentioned Days of Thunder. The different, like, Days of Thunder, obviously grounded, you know, racing and things.
Well, just be clear, compared to Speed Racer, everything is grounded.
Yeah. Going back to Days of Thunder, the entire racing and the entire racers, the drivers in this, all red cards. There's not one who's doing anything legally, even in the rules of Speed Racer.
Because, like you say, it's like, all right, so you have the two different worlds. There are the traditional races, traditional with air quotes, of course. And then there's the Casa Cristo race, which truly allows them to go full wacky races. There are no rules, anything goes.
It was wacky races. Even the snake oilers and everything like that. It was like Dick Dastardly. That dude was Dick Dastardly.
No, it was exactly that. And I think that's what they're going for. And it was really successful. It's one of my favorite sequences in the whole film because it really allows them to just kind of, you know, let loose in terms of the actual driving and the stunts and stuff. But then when you see them, like you say, in the actual races, it still feels pretty close to anything goes. And they make such a big deal about the spear hook. And I know, like, you know, to bring it back to Days of Thunder, like, I love the Grand Prix at the end, but because the movie is so built up around this narrative between him and Royalton and then this side story we don't give a shit about, what it doesn't allow for is them to establish a true competitor Speed in these races. So at the end, similar to Days of Thunder, where all of a sudden we had Carrie Elwes dropped in and we're supposed to care about this rivalry, which doesn't exist. It just hasn't existed all film. Yeah. We have the same with Cannonball Taylor in this film. I think the last race, the Grand Prix, is genuinely fantastic. But the whole thing with the spear hook and him racing against Cannonball Taylor, I'm just like, I don't care. Who the fuck is Cannonball Taylor? I don't give a shit. They should have, like, don't get me wrong. I can't say this in front of my wife. I'm like, get rid of Rain. And that Rain, just to be clear, Rain is what got her into, like, K-pop way before Gangnam Style and everything, because we went to the cinema to watch this together. I was like, oh, that dude's not Japanese, he's Korean. And she went down the rabbit hole, she got into the music, all that other nonsense. He's a very handsome boy and he's perfectly good, despite the fact that I think he's being, you know, delivering his lines kind of verbatim, so to speak. But that whole narrative should just go, and they should put an emphasis on one of the races, so that Grand Prix at the end matters. You notice during that final race, he has that showdown with Cannonball Taylor. It's not even the end of the race. It's just, oh, well, Cannonball Taylor's sorted. Then he actually has to do the end of the race.
Then he has to do that ridiculous, and I say ridiculous in this film, that ridiculous listen to what the car needs. You know?
Of course.
And yeah,
I mean, is that any more ridiculous than fucking Days of Thunder when he's talking to the car? It's just a more Dayglow version of Days of Thunder.
I honestly thought I was having an acid trip. When this film first started, I was 10 minutes in. And I'm just watching this film, and like I'm watching all these things flash past me, and I was like, "Oh, and there's a monkey." Because there's a monkey.
Well, of course, but the thing is, this film gets you and lays. It's basically a statement of intent from the before the film even starts. The production company logos and the intros, which come through on screen before the movie starts. So you usually see Warner Brothers or Universe, whatever. The color used on those is so intense and insane. Now you're just like, all right, we're giving you a warning. This film is going to be mental. And to bring it back to the visuals, which you alluded to earlier, it's like either they work for you or they don't. And if they don't work for you, you are not going to like this film. Because the story, the narrative, the characters, they're not enough to overcome that visual style. That really is the selling point for this film. And as you mentioned, I was trying to decide if some of it had aged out. Basically, it's like, oh, well, it's nearly 20 years old. Or whether it was always just an aesthetic choice by the directors. And what I finally settled on was that the style that they chose, with the editor, with the special effects team, it looked great for neon, kind of soaked futuristic cities, but it looked terrible when anything natural was in the background. So when they're on track, it looks really good. But when they go to, say, Fiji, that bit looks like Spy Kids 3D. It looks fucking horrible, but I think it's a stylistic choice.
And I also, you mentioned Fiji. The only thing that took me out of the film, the entire film, when the Fiji thing, was the fact that the one announcer was Art Lafleur.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
What was that? Art Lafleur just appeared to be. And speaking of the announcers, do you know the first race? Mm-hmm. Do you know you had way too many announcers in that first race?
So many,
and they're all speaking different languages. They're all talking about he's racing Rex, blah blah blah. You had the one that was being soulful. He had he looked like Bob, whatever his name is, from Major League.
Oh yeah.
And he's being soulful, and he's talking about like Speed being like his brother, and he's being nice. Everyone else is calling Rex a prick, and he's being nice. Why is he channeling Stan Lee? Why did I think that was a Stan Lee cameo that Stan Lee couldn't make?
Yeah,
it was the voice. It was everything. All he needed to call his listeners was true believers, and I would have.
It did feel, and you know what? It might well have been. I wouldn't put it past this film, but yeah, that's the perfect example of just like them occasionally. This sounds ridiculous when I'm talking about this film, of just kind of turning the knob like too far to the right. And that opening sequence, I love like how they cut between there's tons of exposition in this film, but they kind of mask it brilliantly with action. So again, because of that unique editing, because of the aesthetic, you're being delivered. The details of the world, the narrative, whatever you want to call it, during actual races, or even before the races, as you say, like later on in the Grand Prix, it works because they're cutting between the racers' faces to kind of, introduce you into that world. It's like, oh, there's all these dangerous faces, everybody's out for speed. But the start, they go with the commentators, and you're just like, wait, how many commentators are we going to see? It's just too many. It's just too much. And you're just like, you could just pare everything back just a smidge. Like I said, I'm all for the avant-garde experimental visuals, but just with everything else that's thrown on top in terms of the cinematography and the editing, there are times when you're just like, there might be a bad storyline going on in the background, but I'm too overawed by everything else going on to even pay attention to it.
Oversaturation to a point.
Yeah.
I liked the announcers or the commentators of the last two races, the County Cristo, Casa Cristo, whatever it's called.
Casa Cristo.
Yeah, that'll do. I like them. You had the guy who just really seemed to be like he's cheated a lot in his racing career.
Who Ben Burns, or otherwise known as Richard Roundtree, aka fucking Shaq.
No, not Shaq.
Oh no, that's the Grand Prix. That's the Grand Prix.
The Casa Cristo. No, the weird French guy
Of
who
course, yeah, my apologies.
everything
Yeah,
he
I know what
said
you mean.
made me think that he. And then the other guy, the other announcer, I knew his face, and
Mhm.
it took me ages to realize who he is. And again, this is just probably a me thing. He's Terrence I can't remember his second name. In did you see that TV show Brassic?
I'm aware of it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he's the bad drug dealer of Brassic. To see him
See,
now,
it
and
was one of
then I'd like the other two as
the.
well. And you said Ben Burns, who may or may not have cheated, who is actually Shaft.
Mhm.
But I recognise this other guy as well, but I couldn't figure out where I recognised him from.
Well, other than Shaft, I remember I was like, all right, I've got to look up these commentators. There's so many commentators to start. I was like, well,
It was
that's just they're
ridiculous.
just going for like different styles, whatever. That was its own unique thing.
Yeah.
But during Casa Cristo, they kept cutting back to the commentators, and they made a big deal out of them. And I just kept thinking, it was like, oh, it must be someone famous, or there must be some kind of link, whether it be to the anime, the manga, or to racing or something that makes sense for them to play such a pivotal role. Because like they were fine, but I was like, why are they getting so much screen time? And the answer is, we don't know. We just don't know. They're completely fine. I still don't think they needed to have anywhere near as much screen time as they got.
No, because so the one I'm saying was Terence McCann in
Mhm.
Brassic. He was played by Ramon Tickerum, and then his other guy was played by a character called Melville Pupar, who
Mhm.
actually had a name. So Ramon Tickerum was Casa Cristo announcer, and then Melvin Pupar was Johnny Goodboy Jones, which makes me think that he was a racer
Again,
in the story.
maybe. But does it matter? Does anything really matter in this film? No. I think it all comes back to, again, that unique aesthetic, that punch in the face of a visual star. And that's what this film really is. And when the film started, and like you said, I've seen this film before. You know, I watched it in the cinema. I bought it on Blu-ray. I had not watched it for maybe 15 years. And my first thought was, fuck, I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy this. This feels like too much. It just felt like so much. But eventually my brain did kind of sink in with it. And I'm not sure if everyone's will. It's kind of like 48 frames per second, for instance. It's one of those things where some people, they'll watch, for like my wife, she watched, what was it? The Hobbit movies. They're in 48 frames per second. Some people watch them and they get on with them just fine. Their brain just kind of clicks in. I find it so distracting that I literally, it almost doesn't matter what's up on the screen. I just think it looks horrible. We've talked about this before with True Motion on on modern TVs. The moment I turn on a TV, I'm just like, True Motion, will not watch it. I cannot fucking stand it. The fact that you used to watch it in True Motion, oh my God.
Well, to be fair, it never bothered me, and I just didn't know about it, so I never turned it off. And if we weren't friends, it's like never touch a man's radio. If we weren't friends like we were, you came into my house, grabbed my remote, and turned it off, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Public service, you know, whether it's announcement or whatever you want to call it.
Just because Tom Cruise told you to turn it off. If he fucking told you to jump off a bridge, you do it anyway.
Absolutely not. True Motion is the bane of cinema, as far as I'm concerned. It is abhorrently disgusting. And even my wife now, and just be clear, my wife didn't notice.
All right, Borat, calm down.
No, my wife didn't notice Henry Cavill's lip in the, you know, like the cinema.
Yes, in Justice League.
In Justice League. I was like, oh God, what about his lip? And she goes, what do you mean his lip? I was like, you didn't know. She didn't notice that, but she does, she does notice True Motion.
So I don't notice it, and it makes me paranoid because I'm watching these films and I think, is that motion smoothing on? And my Samsung TV doesn't call it motion smooth or anything like that. So I've gone through and I think it's off. I need you to come down at Christmas and just look at my TV again and tell me if it's on.
There's no going back. But to bring it back to my point, it's like you said, you watch motion smoothing, it doesn't bother you so much. Whereas me, as soon as I see it, and the same as I said with 48 frames per second, my brain can't handle it. And I cannot settle into it. I just keep seeing it, and I can't enjoy the film. This film, even though it's obviously a stylistic choice, if you don't get on with this film 10, 15 minutes in, then it's game over. You're just not going to enjoy this. And if someone's just said, this film gives me a migraine, I find it all a bit too much, it's totally understandable. Whereas, like I said, when it started, I was like, oh, this feels like a bit much, but I did settle into it. Like you said, there are moments where suddenly the visuals seem very uneven, and I still can't quite decide if it's aged out or if it's a design choice, as we mentioned earlier. But for the most part, I was like, all right, this is just the style. I'm cool with it. And I think what eventually wins me over, you mentioned it earlier, is the fact that it's just such a big swing. There's nothing else like this. It's what makes it so interesting going back to it, despite the fact that it's nearly 20 years old, because it was ostensibly a creative and aesthetic dead end, it was never iterated on. So, you think of other movies, it looked great in 2006, but then, there's been a bunch of sequels or a bunch of films like it. They all look better. You think about it with video games, for instance. That's why I've always loved, say, Shenmue, because Shenmue was a fantastic game, but it was a creative dead end. Nobody made another game like Shenmue. The whole industry went in a different direction. So you go back to it now and it still feels unique because no one else did a game like it. It's kind of like that for films with Speed Racer. They made this crazy film, and because it basically bombed at the cinema, they were just like, all right, no one's going to give this another go. So it just sits there behind, bulletproof glass as this historical piece of unique cinema, I guess. Maybe I'm being too kind.
Why did, and I'm going to the film, we've talked enough about the visuals, I think. We need to talk about the film. Why did Rex Racer, and I don't understand this story choice. I know it's part of it was always hinted the Racer X might be Rex Racer in the the cartoon. But why did he fake his death? What was he doing?
Well, he was working for that. They're not the CIA, the CIB, weren't they?
You mean Inspector Detector?
Inspector Detective, whatever his name is. And just be clear.
No, Inspector Detector.
Oh, is it Inspector Detector? My apologies. So I have no idea where Inspector Detector is from. I think it's the CIA. And when I say that, I appreciate he's from the CIB or whatever the hell they're called. But when you look at him, you're just like, is he Asian? Is he South American? Is he? I don't know where the hell he's from. But I think he wanted to work with them. He wanted to work behind the scenes, and the only way he could do it was not have that connection to his family or his name, because the idea that Boylton and this big conglomerate of just douchebags who are all working behind the scenes to fix races and to fix the stock market. It's like the only way I can work against these is if I'm it's basically the whole Batman thing. No one can know, or Spider-Man. No one can know I'm Peter Parker, because then they start going after the people I love. So that was how I took it. I actually thought Racer X was kind of cool in this movie.
But if you've faked your death, then you've gone through plastic surgery to hide the Rex Racer. Why wear a mask? You've already done everything you need to do so people don't hurt the ones you love.
Yeah, I guess it's just an extra layer, I suppose. And I think,
why hide your face?
I think the answer is it's just kind of cool.
Why hide your face when you're fighting a ninja? He knows where you are. He's coming to kill you. Why do you need to hide your face when you're fighting a ninja? Why take those 2 seconds?
Again, that was such a sentence, and it perfectly sums up this film. You're like, oh, why did you have to cover your face when you're fighting a ninja? You're like, wait a minute, I thought this movie was about car racing. About an hour in, there were ninjas.
Yeah.
Ninjas.
But to be fair, Pop says it best. It's funny what passes it's laughable what passes for a ninja these days. Because conveniently, he just keeps his class wrestling ring on.
He is an ex-wrestler in the comic book, so it kind of makes sense. But that's the thing; it's like the whole milk thing with the Indy 500. It's not explained. If you don't know the comic book, you're like, wait, Pops used to be a wrestler. It's like, yeah.
But I'm all right with that. Like,
no,
that
I'm totally cool.
Yeah, I was good with that.
But I just want to ask this question. Speaking of the manga and the anime and stuff, because as I said, I felt like this was a really big hit because it went into syndication in America. It was actually released the cartoon, almost the exact same time as it was in Japan. So it ran from 67 to 68, and because it went into syndication, there's this kind of historic attachment to Speed Racer in the US. I'm of the understanding that it's just not a thing in the UK. People are vaguely aware of Speed Racer, but I can't remember ever watching Speed Racer when I grew up, or ever being on TV.
So I don't think I watched the original 60s one. Mm-hmm. The one I remember, I'm pretty sure, was the New Adventures of Speed Racer. Like we had that as a Saturday morning cartoon.
That was the 90s, right?
Yeah. So that's the one I remember, and that's the one where it always ended with him talking to the camera or having his monologue whilst he's done his mission for going, Racer X, are you my brother? Are you my brother, Racer X? It pretty much ended that all the time.
He's totally your brother, dude. He's totally your brother.
Rex Racer, Racer X. Racer Rex It's in there, dude. Fucking
Sure, the embarrassing thing is I'd never put that together. I was just like, oh yeah, racer. You're hardly burying the lead, are you?
yeah.
But and I take
He's turned his fucking for his first
yeah,
name.
at the end
Yeah.
and just wore a mask over his completely different face. But it's an interesting thing with this film. I think because it was 2008, it never really came up in conversation because this is how quick society moves. It's like you think about the backlash that, say, Ghost in the Shell received. Like, what was Ghost in the Shell? 2015, 16, something like that?
We're talking the
live action
Johansson one.
Yeah, the Scarlett. And the amount of backlash that got in terms of whitewashing. I was trying to decide if this had been released, say, in 2018, 2019, as it is, would it have got the same kind of backlash? Because on the one hand, the original Speed Racer is actually called Mac Go Go Go. But this is an adaptation, not of Mac Go Go Go. It's an adaptation of the US version of the TV show.
Yeah.
So everyone grew up. They didn't grow up with the Japanese manga. They grew up with the dubbed American version where they all had those changed names. So it's not like this movie. Yes, the names in this movie are different from the what's his name, the Tatsuo Yoshida original. But everyone in America grew up with Speed Racer called Speed Racer, with Trixie called Trixie.
I'm all right with that side of it because
yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm totally fine. I'm just wondering.
Because of what you said. But if West are going to make this, or if the Americans or British or the Western Hemisphere are going to make this sort of film, they're not going to make it for the Asian market. They're making it for our market. So that's what they do. Like Ghost in the Shell was the same thing. It was an American remake. It's the same as say...
You understand how there was like a different kind of like feel with that, where everyone's just like, oh, but these characters are Japanese. They should be Japanese. But also... we had already turned them from Japanese to American back in 1967, so it doesn't matter anymore.
It's, two examples. Remaking The Raid, for a start. You're not going to remake it and have them be Indonesian again. You're remaking it, you're setting it in America. It was like they tried to do with... one of my favorite French films, District 13. They did brick mansions. And again, swing and a miss. Yeah, fine.
That really was a swing and a miss. Yeah. watch the French original. Just leave it at
that. But the other one, like Voltron. Voltron's the same. So we got Voltron, and I can't wait for this. I'm a massive Voltron fan. We're getting the same now, where we're going to get King. I can't even think of any Voltron names at the moment. But you know what I mean. But it's all going to be like Sterling K. Brown, King Lothar, Henry Cavill. I think is King Lothar, things like that. But we're getting based on, like, I would say the Netflix version that we've recently had, or the 90s version, things like that. We're not the original Voltron from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. I guess like the interesting one would be, because they've talked about it for years, is if they did a live action adaptation of Akira, because so much of Akira's narrative and importance is the fact that it's set in Tokyo. Yeah. So if you suddenly took Akira and you made it live action and say you moved it to like Los Angeles, I feel like everyone would get their ass in their hand and be like, dude, you're just fucking missing the point. You're absolutely missing the point. Like, it has to be like, it's imperative almost to the narrative that everybody in the cast is Japanese and that it's set in Japan. Whereas, say, Speed Racer inherently feels, is it American? It's kind of weird because the world they've created is very Western feeling. And in many respects, of course, you look at it and, giant buildings and, as mentioned earlier, everything's neon drenched, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh, well, this is a city of the future. Royalton refers to the fact that he played on his Commodore 64 when he was young.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that makes it a modern day movie. I was just like, wait, what is it? Is it like an alternative universe, kind of like Fantastic Four or something like that?
But I don't think he said he played on his Commodore 64. He said he worked on his Commodore 64.
Yeah, because you could do that, couldn't you? Yeah. Basic kind of algorithms.
Yeah, but I've never known anybody to do any actual work on a Commodore 64.
No, the thing is, I had a Commodore 64 when I grew up. I never used the keyboard. I just used the tape player to load the games. That was it.
Royalton, I appreciate what he said about having a body that needs fuel. That guy's never eaten a pancake in his life. Do you know what I mean? It's all like caviar and shit like that.
It did make me want pancakes, though. There's a big strong emphasis on pancakes in this movie, and it doesn't take much. There are like certain things when you see in film. Like, I'm a sucker for if people smoke, but like really well. Like, if you watch a film and they're smoking and they look like they're enjoying it, I'm like, man, I really want a cigarette. I don't smoke most of the time, but that can get me. It's the same with food. if the food is when I'm watching him eat those pancakes, it should be gross. And instead, I'm just like, God, this feels like a Marks and Spencer's advert. I
there
just
you go.
want
But
to eat pancakes now.
my Rob takes are all around food today.
Oh, fair.
Yeah.
I was. Is there any film quite like this? And if I take away style, just in terms of like a swing, in terms of like bringing a comic book to life, is there anything like the only movies I could think of which came close to this were Ang Lee's Hulk, in terms of the way it really tried to make you feel like you were in a comic book, in terms of moving from like cell to cell, is that what you call it? Yeah. Or maybe in terms of the characters being larger than life, Dick Tracy, perhaps? They're the only two like comic book adaptations which I thought might live in vaguely the same universe as this. They're still not as big a swing as this, but they're the only movies I could think of.
So I'm going to throw one at you. Bunraku.
Wow, I did not see that coming.
So that wasn't a comic book. That is the kind of swing, because it's Bunraku, I believe it's the art of shadow theater, isn't it? So they've taken that art and they've put it into a film. A film I actually really enjoyed, and nobody else did. But Bunraku, the world building on that, the weird colors, the weird because it's all, like I said, shadow puppet things, and Josh Hartnett being the Western guy, the hero that comes in and teams up with the samurai and things. I think it's a great film.
Sounds cool.
It is so cool.
Bunraku.
Have you? I'm sure I've told you about this before.
I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just having a mental breakdown. Bunraku. B-U-N.
Bunraku, as it sounds, yeah. B-U-N-R-A-K-U.
Bunraku. Sounds like something a Street Fighter character would shout as they punch you in the face. Bunraku is a traditional Japanese puppet theater, blah, blah, blah. Oh, what? I've never seen that film. I mean, it's one of those weird ones. This is very much a Rob take, where, there are people like you like this because it's 6.1 on IMDb, but it got 18% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed that this is the first time I'm hearing of it, because it's got a pretty cool Josh Hartnett, Woody Harrelson, Gact, I don't know who Gact is, Kevin McKidd, Ron Perlman, and Demi Moore.
Yeah.
And like the premise sounds fucking awesome.
It's a fucking great film. For my opinion, it's a great film.
Well, there are there's a few quotes on the front of the DVD here. By far the best film I've seen all year. Ain't it cool news? A feast for the eyes, according to IGN, and beyond brilliant, according to the Torontoist. So some people liked it. The 18% would suggest a lot of people thought it was complete ass, but as a synopsis, you fucking sold me on that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
If you take nothing from it, please watch that film.
Yeah, don't talk about Speed Race. I watch Bunraku. When you kept saying that, I was just like, am I hearing this wrong? Because if you were talking to me, like, I felt like I should know it. I'm like, Bunraku?
I'm sure I've told you about it before.
Well, maybe you have. I've just totally
to be fair, I'm pretty sure Josh Hartnett, after filming this film, retired. But don't let that dishearten
you. Not put you off.
Yeah.
Well, there's niche film reference for the week, Bunraku from 2010. So not even all that long ago in the grand scheme of things. Newer than this film.
Yeah.
But the thing is, to bring it back to this film, every time you think it can't get more immense, as you say, like you're already dealing with the unique aesthetic, and then all of a sudden there's a monkey, and then just when you think, it's like, well, you can't, like, where'd you go from here? They have that sequence where Chim Chim and what's the kid's name? Spritle. They're watching Blade of Berserko, and then kind of go into the cartoon. I mean, I love that sequence, but I'm like, fucking hell, guys! If this was a meal, it would legitimately just be a giant bowl of sugar. Not sugar on anything, just sugar on more fucking sugar. That's all this film is. And every time you think, I might be done with this, they just pour more sugar on top.
So the way I saw it was the sugar I saw is fairy bread.
That's a great shout. Great shout, yeah.
What the Australians call fairy bread, which is just bread and butter, but then you put the butter face down into what we know as hundreds and thousands. Yeah. And like, fuck, that's the food equivalent of this film, I thought.
I thought that was made up. One of the guys on my team was from Australia, and he brought in fairy bread. And I was like, what the fuck is it? He was, we eat this all the time.
Yeah.
I was like, it's nice. It's surprisingly decent. It works.
To be fair, we eat this all the time and fucking fight huntsman spiders and, snakes.
Yeah, Australia as a country is as weird as Speed Racers as a movie.
The other thing they fell in love with, dimmies. They call them dimmies, don't they? Which is basically just You
Are
go
those
to
the
like
penguins?
no any fish and chip shop and like dim sum. So you can just get
Oh,
some dim
sorry,
sum
sorry,
and just
sorry.
like, but you got to have soy sauce with it. But they just call it dimmy. I've
Oh.
watched a lot of Mister Nobody lately. He loves a dimmy.
Oh no, sorry, I was totally missed the point. They've got a chocolate bar they always gone about, and as far as I can tell, they're basically just penguins with a different name. But anyway, we got to stop talking about Australia.
Hey,
This is
yeah,
absolutely
so going back to Spritle,
Mhm.
is Spritle a brother that they decided to have another child because Rex is gone,
Mhm.
or is Spritle just some weird kidnapped kid that is now Stockholm syndrome?
Well, yeah, that was the thing. Again, to bring it back to the bizarre, successful but bizarre family dynamic. I'm not sure in this movie if they make it clear at all that he's actually his brother, as far because he feels so left field of everything else going on in this film. Like for a start, it's like is Trixie living with them? It feels like Trixie lives with them.
Well, it feels like Trixie lives with him, but she keeps coming through the front door. Who, to be fair, I will say, played beautifully by Christina Ricci. I think
He's so cute in this film.
if you want to
So
say
cute.
if I want to say that Emil Hirsch wasn't good as Speed Racer, Christina Ricci as Trixie fucking nailed it, in my opinion.
She could have done with more screen time. She's
Yeah.
so pretty in this film and
Did you
so
recognize
likable.
young Trixie?
No,
Modern Family. Ariel
was that her?
Winters. Yeah, she's the youngest daughter of the Dumfries.
Mhm. I know who you mean. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I never really watched that show, but it's one of those bizarre shows that I've never like committed to. Like, what I never watched like episodes in a row or being like, I'm going to watch a series of this. Every time I randomly watch it, I quite like it, but then I never
Yeah.
commit to it.
So
It's
I
kind of
never.
like is it Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
That's another one of those shows I've never committed to watching it, but every time I do watch an episode, I'm like, I really like this, and then
So
just never go back to
they
it.
were shows I never picked up on, but then they would play during lunchtime on E4. So
Mhm,
you
mhm.
kind of carried on watching them like every night. I don't think I've ever watched them religiously or in a row. Modern Family, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I found it like season 5. Went back and watched all the seasons
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it
yeah.
was great. Uh,
But yeah,
but
so
no,
to go back to Spritle, the answer is he is his brother. It's just it's poorly explained.
so
And
is he?
Spritel's a shite bag anyway. I mean, like that sequence, with Speed and Trixie, where they keep playing this game all the way through the film. Are they going to kiss? Which is really weird because they're already established as being a couple.
Couple, yeah.
Yeah, so why do we keep having this will they, won't they? I've got to assume that they've kissed before, but they have that moment at inspiration point when fucking Spritle just shows up, total cockblock move.
So I wrote this down, right? I did write this down. At the end,
Mhm.
he comes up and says, "Careful, you're about to see something that could
It's
affect
quite a charming sequence, yeah.
the
About the
inoculated."
QT sequence,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, which is fine. So it
Mhm.
makes me think he's stopping them on purpose. So I wrote it down. Is he a cock block or is he a cuck?
I think he's a cock blocker.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% a cock blocker. I think he's a kid. He doesn't like the idea of his brother kissing a girl. But like I said, it plays into this whole narrative that, oh, are they going to kiss? I'm like, they're already together. Why are we doing this? It's like, yeah, if they were like building up this relationship, it's like, will they, won't they? And then they kiss at the end. Fantastic. But they're already a couple. It's absolutely pointless. It just doesn't work.
Thinking to their initial meeting when they were kids, right? And for a film called Speed Racer, it was so funny when he takes it to see the cars and Rex and Pops are working on the car,
Mhm.
and they go, "What you got there?" He said, "Oh, some guy gave me this, and it's he's just driven off in a cherry car." And then Rex hears the ticking, and you have that action sequence where he snaps the mop in half.
It's more than a touch elaborate when he could have just, I don't know, thrown it the fuck out the door.
But
Sure.
the other thing, it was like the slowest action sequence for a film called Speed Racer.
Yeah,
Like
it
they had
really
to
was.
get every aspect, and it was so excruciatingly slow the way he did, like the fucking little go kart.
It
Like you
was
said, he could have just filled it out into the
needlessly.
neighbor's yard; it would have been fine. Fuck the
And even
neighbors.
then, he's just kind of thrown like it still like takes the bomb just out into the streets. It's just
Yeah.
like, well, if anyone's out there, tough tits. But yeah, it felt overly elaborate for a sequence where it could have been just like pick up the bomb, oh no, throw it out the window instead of what was it like a lawnmower or something?
It was his go kart. It was his
go
go-kart.
kart. Of
Yeah.
course, it was his
It was
go kart. My apologies.
pretty elaborate made bomb as well, because apparently it could withstand a shaking.
Of course, a good shaking.
Yeah.
As any good bomb really should. But yeah, like you say, like even that sequence, if you ask me now, it's like, why would they send a bomb? I don't know. I
No,
don't
that's
fucking
it.
know.
So I really don't know the whole point of that. Like Rex, were they trying to buy Rex? Are they saying that what Speed's going through now, Rex went through the same
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
or
yeah, that's
Rex
exactly
went?
what they're
Yeah.
saying. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah,
So
so
they
I get the idea that he's gone against Royalton and his cronies, so that they're willing to blow him up or whatever. And like you said, you literally get the same sequence later where Speed is going to walk out the house and Pops turns, obviously does it in a different way and doesn't tell him like you can't come back like you did to Rex, blah blah blah. That all falls emotionally flat, sadly. I think this movie is at its best is when, like you said, the relationship is actually between Speed and Royalton and between those two worlds. So when Speed, Royalton's offering Speed this, chance to race for whatever the goddamn team's name is called. Again,
Royalton.
Royalton, all right, sure. It's all kind of silly because you're just sitting there like, wait, can't you all see that he's clearly evil? But then the sequence when Speed turns down Royalton, the visuals for that sequence, it could have just been, he walks into the room, it's not for me, and then he threatens him. But the way they shoot that sequence is Speed Racer very much at its best. With all the cutaways, so you're getting the narrative and that kind of streamlined storytelling where it's just, big corporation versus we can do, kind of charming racing team. That's what the whole film should have been. And the way they tell that simplistic element of the story is fantastic. But of course, for all the will in the world, for all the great visuals you might have, as soon as you start going into stock manipulation, like there's no cool visuals for that. No. It's just boring as shit. No one gives a fuck. Get the fucking cars back out on track, please.
When Royalton was showing him his factory and showing him everything that's going on, and he was showing him like the teams doing their training and stuff. Why did it feel like he was just showing them the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra headquarters?
Yeah, everything about it was evil. Everything around it was so stupidly evil. But yeah, sure, you need a bad guy. And like I said, Royalton's good. And that part of the narrative I was totally on board with. And, if it gets everyone out on the track, I feel like they could have done with maybe even an extra race in this film. Because, it's called Speed Racer. The races are quite unlike anything else you've ever seen before. Just like, let's have one of those instead, another race instead of all this other additional narrative, which nobody gives a toss about.
Yeah.
But, like the whole like Daytona thing, like if it was more like a traditional sports movie and you're like, oh, they have to go from race to race to race. There's no element of that. There's just like a few random races. They build an excuse to have the whole Casa Cristo thing. And then it's the Grand Prix. But you get no sense of like a progression as you usually would. Like, oh, you're going through a season. Usually that's enough. Like I said, you don't need all this other guff. Just keep it. Oh, well, you've got to have so many points to be eligible for the Grand Prix. Just do that instead. And speaking of which, we've not really talked about, what did you actually think of the races themselves?
I liked the first race once I got into the insanity of it. I liked the Casa Cristo.
Yep.
I wasn't a huge fan of the Grand Prix at the end. There was way too much bouncing around cars and way too much using that fucking steeplejack thing under his car.
See, I like the Grand Prix. I get it. There's a lot going on there. But as I mentioned earlier, I actually think the movie looks its best when it is in those kind of surroundings. Like, I love Casa Cristo, but a lot of the surroundings are natural. So some of it actually looks terrible. Like you mentioned it earlier when they have that whole elaborate plan where they go into the cliff that's shaped like a skull. So something bad's going to happen. And they all meet in the middle, and they have that showdown. The choreography in that section is really cool, but the backgrounds are so fucking ugly that it took me out of it. I just couldn't pay attention. I was like, the fight's cool, but the backgrounds are so goddamn ugly.
They were also out in the open. Where were all the guys hiding?
God knows. Fuck knows. Like earlier, it made sense. Like you said, all right, okay, it's random, it's ninjas. But ninjas are pretty sneaky. It was dark, they showed up, and the fight sequences looked great. Again, who's the guy who plays Racer X? Matthew Fox.
Matthew Fox, yeah.
He's great in those sequences, and they look really cool. But then the equivalent is like out in the open, for some reason, it just looked ugly. Like the choreography was still there, and it would, that sequence leans more on comedy than the other fight sequence with the ninjas, but it just felt a little bit silly. And a big part of it was just like the background just felt like what's the movie Shark Girl and Lava Boy and all those kind of films. Yeah. They all had that kind of vibe, which was a shame. But then as soon as that fight finished, they had the race through the cave, and that looked brilliant. And they're literally 2 seconds away from each other. Bizarre film. Bizarre.
Once the motion is going way too fast, you can't really concentrate on
Maybe
what's
that's it.
happening
Yeah,
behind yet. But when they're doing and they're having these weird fight sequences where they kind of speed up the people, but I don't know. It's very odd.
Like you said, because it's also new, it was new. Well, it was new in 2008. I think it still feels new now. Obviously, they were kind of flying by the seat of their pants to a certain extent, and some of it works really well, and some of it just doesn't. And that's just one of the things you have to deal with when you go back and watch this film. It's like some of it works, some of it looks like ass. It's just the way it is. And like you said, same with the story, because just as you think you're getting on top of things, Haruko shows up. She's here to save the day, and it's kind of implied that she's this major character in the film. I'm just like, I can hardly remember seeing Haruko. Like you said, you got Rain dressed as Haruko, then Haruko double crosses her brother and father, who just double crossed the Speed family, the Racer family, and she just shows up at the door. And by then, I'm just like, I couldn't give two tosses.
I guess it was like tradition, wasn't it, that they had this plan, but they didn't involve the daughter because female. And she's like, hang on now, I wasn't privy to this, and I think what they've done is fucking wrong. So, and then you've got the little nod of approval from Rain at the end. It's like, oh yeah, you did give him my my invitation. Well done.
Yeah, because he's like evil, but he's not that evil. And like you said, just as you think the narrative can't get any more convoluted and silly, like Haruto shows up, and just as you think this movie can't get any more like visually bonkers, you get to the Grand Prix, and like after the first corner, there's basically a zebra-based zoetrope on the side of the track.
Yeah.
And you're like, get fucked. Like they were literally like, what's the most insane thing we can put on the side of the track? Like I know, zoetrope. It's so bizarre.
I was all right with Rain. I didn't think he was evil. I think he was just doing everything for his dad's approval.
No, he was, yeah. But you know what I mean?
It was all for, I guess.
If you stop and think about it, it all does, it holds together, but there's never enough meat on the bones for you to give a shit. That's the problem. Yeah. It's like, there's no point, if you don't stop and think about it for a minute, like you said there, I can understand why everyone's doing what they do. I can understand the narrative. I just don't give a shit.
You said that perfectly then about stopping and thinking about it, because I did stop and think about the Grand Prix at the end. Like the logistics of this random fucking racetrack the size of Cardiff and Newport together in a Coliseum.
Yeah, I'm sure our American listeners will totally know what you're talking about there.
Hey, you talk American, and sometimes I haven't got a clue what's going on, so I'm going back. And like I said, I didn't know about the milk in this Daytona thing that you were on about just a second ago.
Indy 500.
Indy 500.
Well, I hope it is. I might have fucked that up now.
But then did they kidnap all of these people to come and spectate? Because fuck me, there is more people in that stadium watching that than there is fans of all of the football teams in the Premier League put together.
Racing in whatever city and whatever world they're in is as big as apparently, I know, karate was in the Valley in 1984. It's just one of those things everybody goes to see it. The thing is, though, we think it's weird because we're just like, everyone's going to see racing. I'm going to bring it back to Australia again. It's like every so often on TV over here, you can watch Aussie rules football. And to the vast majority of us, it is an absolute fucking mystery. I even looked up the rules of the sport and I still don't totally get it. And then you look at the stadiums around it, and they're like 100,000 people deep, all watching this goofy ass sport that the rest of the world doesn't understand.
That's it.
Speed Racer is very much the. Sorry, go for it.
I do love when films give us films based on these niche sports, and these niche sports. It's a world, like you have all these people, the world of these people. I always think about like the film I always call Men with Brooms. I don't call it. That's what the film's called, which is about curling in Canada.
Yeah.
And like, it's massive. Like, according to this film, and all these little I love like BMX and skateboarding films and things.
Well, that's the thing. They make these films and they have to imply that this is super important. And in fairness, it's kind of like the Dayglow version of Formula 1. And sorry, I just looked it up just while I have it in front of me. The Indy 500 milk tradition, where the winner drinks milk in victory lane, began in 1936 with three-time winner Louis Meyer, who requested buttermilk to refresh himself. Established officially by the dairy industry in 1956, drivers now vote on their preference whole, 2%, or skim before the race. So I wasn't making that up. It is the Indy 500.
And you have like chocolate or something. You know, I'll have a chocolate.
Do you
milk.
want to be pouring chocolate milk over your face?
Do you want to be pouring milk over your face?
No, it's one of those things. It sounds like a good idea. It's like, it has the whole visual, but like being cut, milk stinks, dude. It fucking stinks. It's just a bad idea. It's a bad idea.
My fucking son, he had a glass of milk and we thought he'd put it in the sink. We only found it 2 days later under his bed. That was not a good couple of days
that
after
is not
that.
good.
Yeah.
That is not good. To bring it back, like as you said, I know you have a different feeling to me on the Grand Prix at the end. I actually think it's one of the best sequences in the movie. I love the way they introduce the drivers at the start. I know the whole, feel the car thing is a little bit cheesy, but they needed that moment, I guess. What I did love unequivocally was after he has the showdown with Cannonball Taylor, and he has a sequence where he's just in the zone. I know he uses those springs a bit too much, but I love the visuals of him driving around the track, taking everyone out. But especially, and it really is the litmus test for your tolerance for this film, is like one of the last shots when he goes over the finish line and the cars in front of him explode. The checkered flag kind of turns into this kind of like, I don't know, tunnel of Day-Glo.
It's the Speed Racer. It's the Speed Racer logo.
Oh, the Speed Racer logo, of course.
So,
And
so it's not the
just
logo. The opening credits of the cartoon, I believe, used to be like that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. But I know so that, like, right at the end of the film, they're just like, we're just going to throw everything at you in this sequence. And I fucking loved it. I loved the bit when he went over the line. Like, how many times you have this build up in sports movies and then the finale never quite matches? You think of like the ones like nail it, like Rocky or something like that. This nails it when he goes through the brakes and he goes over the line and everything's just blowing up and the visuals go truly batshit. Like you said, if you tell me that was too much, I didn't get it. I understand.
No, I got it.
Absolutely adored it.
I got it. It just was too much.
No, sorry. When I say get it, I don't mean like in a dickish way. I said, "Oh, you don't understand, bro." I'm like, if it doesn't work for you, sorry. That's
when you said about the introduction as well. You had the introduction of the racers, and there was a bounty put on Speed's head, and they were in a changing room, and all the racers are staring at him menacingly. I've never thought I'd see that scene homaged, and then I realized, no, I have seen that scene homaged. Okay. Robert Rodriguez did it in Alita Battle Angel. It's pretty much the same fucking scene.
It is very similar. And what it also reminded me of was it reminded me of the pod racing sequence from episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which, as I mentioned earlier, David Tatzel's the same cinematographer who also did one of your favorite films, bizarrely, Soldier. So any excuse to bring that up. And in case you're wondering, have we covered that on the podcast? Of course we've covered Soldier on the podcast. But you can see hints of the pod racing. Yeah, Alita Battle Angel is basically this, but then it all comes back to its kind of like anime roots, and that so many of the kind of tropes of anime come from stuff like Speed Racer and I guess I was going to call him Atom Boy, Astro Boy. There we go,
Astro Boy. Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, like I said, I love the finale. They had the big kiss at the end, which was kind of silly because I said they're already boyfriend and girlfriend. You have the reveal of Racer X where you're just like, no, guys, we know. We figured out it's a face-off job. We all fucking, they really sell it as like, oh, I bet you didn't see that coming. It's like, yeah, we kind of saw it coming, dude.
Yeah.
But just one last question before we move on. What did you make of the end credits? Because I love the remix of the original song by Ali D and Decompressors. The song was amazing. And I was just like, just give me a little bit more of the madness right towards the end.
I turned it off. They kissed, dude. They kissed to come off. I was done. I turned it off. I was fine. I just spent 2+ hours watching this fucking insanity.
I totally get it, but the closing credits are actually really fun, and the song is an absolute belter. It's just a remix of the original track, but because they actually had to buy the rights not only for the song but for the sound effects from like the TV show to put them in the movie. I didn't think of it. That's something you had to kind of purchase the rights on. So yeah, they had the song, the sound effects, the whole, kit and caboodle. But that's the kind of money they had. And I just, again, one more thing before we move on. When you watch this film, and historically, I was always of the assumption that this was like a passion project for the Wachowskis. I just thought, oh, well, because they had just done the Matrix trilogy, they'd basically been given a blank check, and they're like, oh, we grew up with Speed Racer, we want to do Speed Racer. That wasn't the case at all. like this film was like in development hell since 1992, and
Yeah.
it originally had Johnny Depp as Speed Racer, and of all people, Henry Rollins was going to be Racer X. I was like, my God, that was going to be a very different movie. But it was just so, I just wanted to mention it because in my head, I totally convinced myself that this was like a passion project for them.
What year did you say?
That was 1992.
Like 1992, yeah, because I got it as 94 for Henry Rollins.
No, it was 94.
Yeah.
They started developing it in 92, and the first kind of serious leads were Henry Rollins and Johnny Depp.
So this went up. It lost money in 2004 again because it was going to be produced by Vince Vaughn, and Vince Vaughn was going to be Racer X, but then they lost the money, and the Wachowskis were like, "Well, we can do it."
Well, I guess that was the thing, is like once they had their name attached, they could finally make it. And yeah, supposedly it didn't have attachment to the source material. They were just like, we can go big on this. And when they showed everyone like what they wanted to do with the visuals, and like you mentioned in the intro, like the non-linear storytelling, that kind of what they refer to as like, kind of not train of thought, stream of consciousness storytelling, which, needed that unique editing for. It's like, oh, we're just going to take this to the max. And because of what they had just achieved with The Matrix, people just basically kept saying yes. And that's how you ended up with this movie. So, yeah interesting one. Anyway, sorry. Should we move on to favorite scene?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically what I just mentioned a moment ago. I could have said Casa Cristo was fun, both parts 1 and 2 of the Casa Cristo race, but it is Speed going over the finish line to win the Grand Prix. Love that sequence.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. You need to stop saying it could have been this, because it always ends up being what my fucking favorite scene is.
Sorry, mate.
All the time. It was the Casa Cristo race. I mean, it's where the film goes full psychedelic fever dream. You've got the cars flipping, spinning, drifting, glowing, occasionally defying the laws of physics. It's loud, chaotic, colourful, and absolutely committed to the bit. I think it's the moment the Wachowskis stop pretending this is a normal movie and instead unleash a 2-hour anime hallucination.
Yeah, and if you ever wondered what a live-action Wacky Races would look like, that is the answer. It already exists.
Yeah.
It's literally this. Sorry, I've got Rob's take. Do you have any Rob's takes for this movie?
I do have 2 Rob's takes. The first one being the cold milk at the end, not because it's not part of the Indy 500, but because I wouldn't share a glass milk bottle with anybody. It just doesn't feel right to me. To just drink out of cold milk and then just go, just drink. Or no, have somebody else drink it and then get me to drink out of their cold milk.
I guess there is something slightly more personal, like sharing certain drinks, but sharing milk, I guess, is quite odd. So yeah, I can see where you're coming from.
And Ma racist sandwiches. I'm all right with the way she made them. They were a bit haphazard, but it's fine. But she's popped them all on the same plate, and then they're all greasy working on the cars. Yeah, just grab a sandwich and have some grease sandwich.
You sound like a germaphobe, in fairness.
It was food on this one. I'm not usually a germaphobe. I'm usually all right with it, but for some reason...
You zoned in on when it comes to this one. Fair enough. Yeah. Oscar season, in which we handled 3 Oscars and 3 Razzies in categories of our choosing. For me, the Oscar for batshit brilliant cinematography and editing goes to the Wachowskis and David Tatsuo, for the reasons we've already mentioned. 2, the Oscar for crush I didn't know I had goes to Christina Ricci as Trixie. She's always been pretty...
A crush with Trixie or Christina Ricci? Because I've always had a crush on Christina Ricci.
I don't think I always, she was always pretty enough, but I never had Christina Ricci's like one of my obvious crushes. But in this film, playing Trixie with like the haircut and just the whole look and how charming performances, I just say, I think I'm falling in love with Christina Ricci. She's so charming in this film. And 3, the Oscar for most spectacular ending to a sporting event in movie history goes to Speed winning the Grand Prix, the ultimate fuck it, let's go for it moment of visual extravaganza. So apologies for repeating myself there.
The Oscar for the best commitment to absurdity goes to the Wachowskis. They didn't ground it. They didn't tone it down. They didn't modernize it. They said, what if we made the cartoon but more? And then did exactly that.
Yeah, totally.
The winner for the best Dick Tracy villain lineup goes to every corporate henchman. Why does every bad guy look like they escaped from a 1930s comic strip? Fedoras, trench coats, exaggerated faces. It's like Dick Tracy mated with Mario Kart.
Yeah, well, it kind of plays into this whole idea that this is like this alternative future. You think of kind of retro futurism, and you think of like Batman. So a lot of them are kind of like somewhere between the 30s and the 50s and the future. Like they'll all be wearing feathers and stuff like that. Whereas this is maybe closer to like the Jetsons, kind of like 60s, 70s retro futurism, which gives its own unique air as well.
And finally, the Oscar for the best vehicle that sounds like a Terminator prototype goes to the T-180. We're apparently 620 versions away from riding a Terminator. I think Skynet is going to be furious when it finds out.
And we haven't really mentioned it. I could have given an additional Oscar for the Mach 5 or the Mach 6 as one of the great movie cars.
What about the Mach 4?
Which one's the Mach 4?
I don't know. I read that obviously they built Mach 1 to 6, but we only see 4, 5, and 6 in this film. I'm guessing 4 was Rex's.
I guess so, yeah. But like, obviously, the iconic one from the comics is Mach 5, and then for the end of the film, like the powered up one is Mach 6. Yeah. But they look very similar. But the Mach 5 in particular looks fantastic. And that's a great thing about the Crystal race is that you have an excuse to have Speed in his like traditional suit. So he's wearing like the blue shirt with the red neck, looks like a Frenchman. Yeah. And when he jumps out the car and does the pose, it's kind of cheesy, but you're also like kind of badass as well. But yeah, the car's an absolute belter. The Razzie for weirdest but admittedly functional family unit goes to the Racer family for all the reasons we've already mentioned. The monkey Sparky lives there. They park a car in the living room. We don't really know what's going on there, but they all seem happy enough, so we'll leave them to it. The Razzie for most obvious evil corporate douchebag goes to Roger Allam as Royalton, and just how stupid it! Like, come on, guys! Like, you get this in movies every so often where you're watching, it's just like as soon as you walk into a room or as soon as he walks into your front door, you're just like, well, he's clearly the most evil fucker in the world, but nobody seems to figure it out. The Razzie for disappointingly limited use of one of the coolest cameos of all time goes to Richard Roundtree as Ben Burns. If you're gonna have Shaft in your movie, give him a bit more screen time. That's what I think. But
he had quite a lot, mind. His face was all over the Grand Prix at the end.
He did have the bit of the Grand Prix. I just feel like, you kind of established in the story he could have done a bit more. But yeah, that's fair enough.
Right, the Razzie for the worst CGI moment goes to Racer X versus Lightning McQueen's transport truck full of Dick Tracy villains.
Yep.
The animation is seen as aged like milk left in the sun or in my son's bedroom. It looks like a PS2 cutscene fighting a Pixar asset pack even.
It is weird. Some I don't think this is an exaggeration. Some sequences in this film genuinely look that bad. It's really weird.
The Razzie for the most on-the-nose character name goes to Speed. I mean, if you name your kid Speed, he will either become a race car driver or a drug dealer. There's no third option.
Yeah, it is quite literally the ultimate case of nominative determinism. Speed Racer. Not just one name, both of them. It's like, okay, dude, we get it. You're a race car driver. Jesus Christ. You can't sell coffees at Starbucks if you're called Speed Racer.
What's your name? Speed Racer. Oh, what do you do for a living? I'm a photocopier.
Yeah. I sell mobile phones for Vodafone. So Speed Racer. That's your name, though. Yeah, Speed Racer. Feel like you missed a trick. Anyway, moving on.
And finally, the Razzie for the most overstimulating visual experience goes to the entire film. The movie is the cinematic equivalent of dropping acid, smoking weed, and drinking magic mushroom tea before sitting in a sensory deprivation tank. Oh, and there's a monkey.
Alternative titles. I'd be interested. Is it actually called Mac Go 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 in Japan?
Oh,
rather than Speed Racer, as the original anime was.
Well, in Argentina, it was called Meteor.
Obviously.
Yeah. In Hungary, it was called Speed Racer Total Turbo. Latvia, it was called Speed Racer the Axis Racer.
Fair enough.
Serbia, Spid Travel.
Okay.
Slovenia, Master of Speed.
Sure. That feels like a different movie, but sure.
Taiwan's amazing. Hurry up.
Fantastic. Just hurry up. For God's sake.
Turkey, Fast Racer.
Yeah. It's like the lame version of the actual title.
There's no Japan Speed Racer.
Oh, that's surprising. Never mind.
I'm sorry, Vietnam Speed King.
Speaking. All right, fair enough. Any facts this one that we haven't already covered?
So Peter Fernandez and Corinne Orr, the original English voices of Speed Racer, Racer X, and Trixie Spritel in the 1967 Speed Racer, voice race announcers in the film.
Oh, okay, that makes a bit more sense. Whether somebody got damn race announcers, I knew there had to be something to him.
Emil Hirsch's career might have been dipping in 2018 because Emil Hirsch attempted to gain support for a sequel, which he claimed the Wachowskis had already written on social media on May the 14th, 2018, 10 years after the release of the film.
Well, that'll lead into our Hug to the Future section in a moment.
Yeah. Keanu Reeves turned down the role of Racer X.
That's a shame. I could totally see him as Racer X.
A possible sequel was hinted at by Christina Ricci. She stated, when we were all leaving, we were like, write the sequel, we want to come back. And the Wachowskis were like, I know, we're going to, don't worry.
Honestly, it feels like the kind of movie which would have been, which would have got a sequel if it made any money.
Yeah. So though the Mach 5 and Mach 6 are both white, the Mach 4 is traditionally shown as a red vehicle. So it was Rex Racer's
Cool.
car. The last movie with the Wachowski siblings, the credit is the Wachowski brothers. I don't think we really needed to know that one.
Yeah.
There's a Wilhelm scream when Spritel and Chim Chim are rummaging through Royalton Industries.
Nice to have him in there.
There's Ariel Winter, who plays young Trixie to Christina Ricci's Trixie, is the real-life younger sister of actor Jimmy Workman. Workman played Pugsley Adams in the 90s Addams Family films, where Ritchie was famously portrayed his movie sibling Wednesday Addams.
I mean, it's a bizarre fact because I'm not sure if it has anything truly to do with this movie, but it's an interesting one all the same.
J.J. Abrams wrote a draft of the screenplay. He will now produce a live-action series for Apple.
Yeah, we'll see.
I didn't know there was a series coming, but okay.
Yeah.
What else have we got here?
And it'd be so interesting if somebody did make a live action adaptation for TV, if it retained any of the visual styles from. Obviously, you're going to have certain motifs and stuff, but would they go anywhere near this movie on a visual level?
Some prints were shipped to movie theaters under the name Race Chasers.
Okay.
Yeah. We got anything that's actually good in here?
I've got one pretty good one. So in the Japanese version, the full name of the character is actually Go Mifune, which is referenced in the race team as well. And it's an homage to Japanese movie star Toshihiro Mifune, who seems to be all the rage at the moment because he was in like Rashomon and a bunch of Akira Kurosawa films. But they're using his likeness in the new Onimusha movie, Onimusha video game, which looks amazing. The new Capcom. I'm not sure if you played Onimusha before.
Not clear.
It was basically the samurai version of Resident Evil. Okay. So they came out on like the PS1, PS2, and stuff like that. The same kind of like still backgrounds, only instead of zombies, it was samurai versus demons. And it does have kind of a form with movie stars because of all the movie stars out there. What's his name from Leon? Is it Rene? Not Rene Russo. Rene Russo's a female actress.
Jean Reno.
Jean Reno, thank you. He was in the third game, and
that's insane.
I know.
No. Guess what my next pick was going to be, but I cut it out at the last minute.
Not Leon, was it?
It was going to be Leon. Just
be clear. Well, it's got a different name in America, hasn't it? Is it like Leon the Professional?
It's So it's Leon the Professional or just the Professional. The
Professional. I think in some places it's definitely just called the Professional. Over here it's just called Leon. But anyway, so Jean Reno, he was in the third game, and they just, even though he's been dead for ages, obviously the family signed off, or the estate, whatever you want to call it, they've signed off on it, and they're using his likeness for Onimusha, which, like I said, like the original 3 games, they're all perfectly fine. The new one looks genuinely amazing, and Capcom have not missed in a long time. So I have high hopes for that one.
One more fact just for you. Andre Cantor, Spanish sports commentator, infamous for his scream of goal in football matches, appears as a commentator at the Grand Prix.
Cool. Just throwing them all in. Well, eventually there'd be somebody famous amongst all those names. Hugs the Future. So we ask a question, remake, sequel, Let It Die, Leave Well Alone. We've already touched on this, but as much as I would have loved to have seen a sequel, obviously it's not happening, and because it's so unique, I would say Leave Well Alone, because as you said, like, imagine they did like a TV adaptation. I just don't think it's going to have the same kind of impact. It's going to be, they're definitely going to tone it down, because you can't tone it up anymore. You can't turn up, the knob doesn't go to the right anymore. So sorry, that sounded weird. It's already at 11.
This went past 11. I think this reaches 12 or 13.
Yeah, if there's 12 or 13, whatever the highest point is, it's already reached that. So you'd have to be going the other way. So I would have loved to have seen a sequel in like 2010, 2011 with the same cast. But obviously that ship has sailed. So I'd say Leave Well Alone.
I didn't have the affection of it back then, so I didn't really care if there was a sequel coming. I'm still the same now. I don't really need one. I appreciate what they did. Like I said, I appreciate a good swing. But for me, it probably wouldn't be Leave Well Alone. It would just be Let It Die. I enjoyed watching it. I'm probably not going to watch it again. So just, I mean, it could just drift onto the ether for all I care. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I wonder how I'd feel about it if I went back like another 10, 15 years from now. Like, would I feel exactly the same about the aesthetic? Would it all look terrible, or would I have the same kind of approach where it's like, well, some of it looks rough, some of it looks fantastic? Like I said, I don't know. But as I say, I have a stronger attachment to this film, so I'd say Leave Well Alone. Make a change, or if you could only make one change to make this movie better. For me, it's easy. I can make the argument about the more consistent visuals, but it is make the plot slightly more coherent, just more streamlined. Like, that's the really big issue. This film could be 20 minutes shorter. It could be a lot more streamlined, and it'd probably be a better movie for it.
So for me, it was let the villains be less cartoonishly evil. I mean, the villains are fun and all, but they're also so over the top. They make Cobra Commander look subtle. I give one of them a hobby, maybe, other than collecting piranha. I don't know.
Yeah, him having like all those piranhas, like, dude, we get it. You're all like buffoonishly evil.
Personality trait was basically corporate mustache twirling. It was just.
Mm-hmm.
I
A
mean,
little one note,
if
yes.
they could tie a damsel to a fucking train track, they would have.
Yeah, it's weird that the narrative is oddly complex, but the characters are incredibly one note. It's
Yeah.
bizarre. Strange film. In terms of video games, there was a poorly received PlayStation 1 game from 1996 based on Tatsuo Yoshida's 1966 manga and anime, and a PS2 Wii Racer based on the movie from CD Interactive in 2008, which I actually owned and played back in the day. Surprisingly decent. There was also a well-received DS adaptation developed by Virtuous, which I didn't play, but came out obviously around the same time as the Wii version. But yeah, the Wii version in particular, surprisingly good, and it was pretty close to what I would actually do if I was going to make a modern version of this movie into a video game. It's basically just make Ridge Racer, because when they're doing the races, the whole thing is like they're drifting around the corners in really extreme ways. Ridge Racer is the king of that in many respects, and there hasn't been a proper Ridge Racer game for literally decades at this point, and it's one of my racing series. So Namco, pull your finger out. One, just make a Ridge Racer game. If it has to be Speed Racer, so be it. So yeah, a Namco Ridge Racer Speed Racer crossover would be absolutely ideal.
So I went away from the drifting side and I went to the absurdity side of the racing.
Mm-hmm.
And I went for Amusement Vision's, typically the 2003 version, F-Zero GX.
Oh, dude, it's one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah.
Made by Sega and Nintendo. Fantastic.
Yeah. The absurdity of that game.
And the speed.
Yeah, well, that's it. Why it fits, you got the high-speed neon chaos, cars that flip, spin, and defy physics, tracks that look like they were designed by someone on 3 hours of sleep and a little energy drink. A tone that says realism is for cowards. I don't know.
It's held up so well because it's actually on a Nintendo Switch Online at the moment. If you get the expanded version, which includes the GameCube games, so it's like slightly higher res, but that game still looks fantastic. The music's amazing. It's just like another one. Like if I could literally, if you said to me, I could kind of like, I don't know, bring any 5 gaming franchises back from the dead. 2 of them, and they might be top of the list, would be F-Zero and Ridge Racer. Yeah. And if either was a crossover with Speed Racer, so fucking be it. So yeah, both fantastic answers. I'm giving myself a pat on the back there, but I think those are 2 pretty good answers there.
Good boy.
IMDb says where we choose a random 10-star and 1-star review. But before we do that, I try and guess how many written reviews there are for this film. And this is another one where I have no fucking idea. 182?
521. You are way off.
520. What?
Yeah, you are
get
way
these
off.
curveballs every so often where a lot of people feel passionate about this film. But as you mentioned, it has become a cult classic.
10 stars, how many?
I reckon there might be quite a few, actually. 86.
102.
Close. Oh, I can deal with that, yeah.
So this one was written in December 2008, so the same year as the film, titled, I Didn't Want to Like This Movie.
Oh, fair enough.
When Speed Racer came out, I had no desire to see it. I thought it looked like crap and it seemed way too over the top. Between then and now, I purchased a Blu-ray player and decided to get Speed Racer, strictly for the visuals, which everyone seemed to agree were absolutely amazing. I'm extremely glad I did. I love this movie. Yes, it's cartoony, and yes, it's over the top, but it is a whole lot of fun. Sometimes the script may seem ridiculous, and at first Spritel and Chim Chim are beyond annoying, but it is still a whole lot of fun. The movie is unlike anything I've ever seen. It never takes itself too seriously or tries to be something it's not. It's the most fun I've had watching a movie in a long time. I felt like a child again, having a whole lot of fun. He had fun with this film, if you didn't guess.
Fun. I was going to say he definitely had fun. But I think a lot of people, it's kind of like, even though I don't think this is as good, it's like the Scott Pilgrim thing. I absolutely fucking adore Scott Pilgrim, the movie. Yeah. And it seems to be the people who like that film universally love it. But a lot of people are just like, whatever. Like my wife says, like she understands why I like it, but it just doesn't work for her. And I know so many people where I've told them, I'm like, oh, dude, you have to watch Scott Pilgrim. And like, it's fine. And they're just not fussed. I'm like, what the fuck? But if it works for you, if it clicks, chances are you absolutely adore it.
I'm on your wife's side. I can see why you like it, but it's not for me.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That is like the complete response you get from the vast majority of people. And I feel like I'm closer to that end of the spectrum when it comes to Speed Racer, where it really does work for me, even though it's not, I don't think it's anywhere near as good as Scott Pilgrim, but I think Scott Pilgrim is borderline a masterpiece. But again, I understand why other people aren't so keen.
Yeah. How many 1 stars?
I don't think there's going to be that many in terms of people feeling like they need to got the way to write a 1-star reviews for this film. 17?
42.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I picked this one. This one, after I picked it, I read it. This is the equivalent of basically saying, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay.
I look forward to this.
Written again in May 2008, so same year.
Yeah,
visually
so fresh off the press.
Yeah, visually annoying. This movie is visually annoying. The writers had an idea done in comic and could not figure out how to make it on big screen. It's a futuristic waste of time and money. I don't care how many sequels they make, if any, I won't be going to see them. I am asked to rate this movie a 1 to 10, and the protest I have to rate it a 1, since it didn't allow me to rate it a 0, a big goose egg. I don't like berating someone's movie, but this was a huge childhood cartoon for me, and I look forward to seeing it. And I was greatly disappointed in Hollywood. I'm hoping the other comic book movies make up where this one flopped. John Skaggs, jgskaggs@yahoo.com. If you disagree, let me know why. Just have a go if you think you're hard enough.
Because, Jesus Christ. So yeah, I don't agree with the 1 or the 10, but I'm much closer to the 10. So in terms
we've got his email address if you don't agree with it.
Oh, of course. I need to let him know. See if he's clearly quite passionate about it. My own score and recommendation, I've gone back and forth on this a few times. I didn't want to give it another half. So I'm going to commit, and I think this is a 4-star movie, and I think it's a yes.
What was that? What star was
I think it's a 4 and a yes from me.
4, okay, yeah.
But I appreciate it's what you talked about earlier, where I'm totally enamored by the fact that it's such a big swing. I love the fact that nothing else quite looks like it. I loved it when I saw it in the cinema. Time has taken its toll to a certain extent, but I still thoroughly enjoyed it. And as I said, there's no film quite like it. But as much as I would tell someone, it's like, yeah, I think you should watch it because there's nothing else like it. It would also come with the caveat, be like, you might fucking hate this film. You might really fucking hate this film. But I think like the whole spectrum is totally understandable. If somebody came to me and said this was a 1, 2, 3, 4, or a 5-star film, I think you can make an argument for all of them. I sit at 4, but if you told me it was a 2, I'd be like, yeah, totally get it.
So I didn't enjoy this film as much as you, but I didn't despise this film.
There's another poster quote. I didn't despise this film. Rob, hey you guys, 2 stars.
Yeah, but I couldn't get on it for it took a minute for me to get into it with the colors and the speed and everything, and then I got into it and it was fine. It was fun to watch, but it's a bit too long. It's a bit a lot too cartoonishy. I appreciate the big swing, and the reason for the big swing is what saves it, I believe. You've already said it 3 times already. You knew where it was going. It is a 2, and it's a no from me. I wouldn't recommend it.
That's fair. And to be honest, like I said, initially I had this down as a 3.5, but I was just like, I've had a few too many 2.5s recently, and I keep talking about how I don't like to use half scores, and I just keep using them all the time. So it's just like, all right, if I'm going to round this up, I'm very much rounding this up to a 4 because of the messy narrative.
I love how you've used 2.5s. I've had so mmany 2.5s lately. I can't give it another 2.5, so it's a 4. But there's 3 in between that.
Just to be clear, I was going to give it 3.5. I was just like, I like on a personal level, I enjoyed this movie a little bit too much to give it a 3. It just works for me. And maybe it's just because I like the source material and the fact that on a visual level, it commits so wholeheartedly to it. Maybe I'm just won over by that. But yeah, this could have easily been a 3.5, but I'm gonna stick to my guns and say 4. But as I said, the yes is definitely with that caveat, because I'm not. I wouldn't have the audacity to tell anyone that you will definitely love this film. It's just you. It could go either way. It could go any one of all the ways. In fact, you could like some of it and hate some of it. You could hate it all. You could love it all. Who the fuck knows? But because there's nothing quite like it, I think it's worth people giving it a go. And I can see why it's become a cult classic. You can imagine. Like I said, with the Scott Pilgrim thing, it's one of those films where if it works for you, it's really going to work for you. If it doesn't, you're going to feel like Rob did, basically, and be like, yeah, it's just not for me.
Didn't despise this film.
Yeah, didn't despise this film. Famously didn't despise this film. All right, so that's my choice. I forgot the quiz today. My apologies. So we're going to have to go straight to your choice for next week.
Yeah, not a problem, mate. Well, actually, you forgot the quiz, but I do have, if you want to change it up a little bit, because we'll get it in. I do have my portmanteaus.
No, go for it.
He says.
Oh, actually, no, fuck it. No, just talk a sec, and I will go grab it.
Just talk. Just vamp. You said just talk. I said the words just vamp. Got really confused because I don't know how to do it on my own, so I paused. We are now recording again, so people can hear this conversation.
Well, I've got the quiz here, so we're good to go.
I literally just went just vamp and then paused it because I got scared.
Fair enough. Well, I'm going to actually, rather than try and explain this and failing like I do every week, I'm just going to read the box. A game about identifying movies from the worst descriptions ever. So we're going to go through three of them. There's the initial. I was going to say quiz. That doesn't make anything up. The initial. What's the word I'm looking for? Hint. And then there's an additional hint. Jesus Christ. It's been a very long day. Work's been absolutely fucking slaving me in the moment. So the first one. A son gives his dad a hand.
Like, is that quite literally he gives his dad a hand?
Could be.
Is it the... Which one does he cut his hand off? Is it... Star Wars 2?
I'm going to give it to you, despite the fact that it's a fucking horrible response. Yes, it is technically the second Star Wars film, Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Come on, dude. I know you're watching all these movies with your kid now. Yeah, you should know better. I am. You'll get there. I know there are people listening going, that fucking guy, he'll get there eventually. We
watched the Clone Wars. Is it Clone Wars?
Yeah, that's Episode 2, but then technically it's Star Wars 5.
Is it Attack of the Clones?
Yeah, Attack of the Clones. Yeah.
Fuck me, that's a long old film.
It is a long film, and it is not great, sadly.
No.
The second worst of all the Star Wars films, as far as I'm concerned. The next hint would have been in space, but obviously you didn't need it. All right, the next one: a man gets way too into video games. Not
like quite literally, probably dragged in. Is it Tron?
It is Tron, dude. You're absolutely flying. The next hint would have been like literally.
I actually said like literally.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So you're ahead of the game. Yeah. And the last one, fruit starts a citywide riot. This is a trickier one. Fruit starts a citywide riot.
For some reason, I want to say Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
Nope.
No. Fruit starts a citywide riot.
That is a tricky one in fairness.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have got that, I don't think. Hint, some new hires fix it.
Fruit starts a citywide riot. Some new hires fix it. Okay. Ball, no. No.
I'll give you one last clue. The year was 1984. But like I said, that's a proper tricky one.
Yeah, 1984.
It's a film I've not seen for ages, but I watched a lot when I was growing up, and I have no idea. I think we talked about covering it on this podcast, but I don't think you're a fan. I'm not even sure if you've seen it. Okay. See, now I'm worried you may not have seen it. It was Police Academy.
Oh, yes, I have seen Police Academy. Why would the fruit start the citywide riot? I don't remember that.
Wasn't there that scene towards the end of the film or something like that?
I know there was the riot, and then the recruits saved it, the new hires, of course. Mm-hmm. It's the fruit that got me, though. Did they throw an apple at somebody or something?
Maybe something like that. Like I said, I saw that film loads when I was younger, but I have not seen it for ages.
Again, Police Academy 2 and 6 were the ones I grew up watching.
Was 6 Mission to Moscow? I saw Mission to Moscow, which I think was the 7th one in the cinema, bizarrely. Yeah. It was rubbish.
With Ron Perlman. And
I see. It's weird how everyone has like the one I watched the most, other than the first one, was I think it was the 3rd one, Citizens on Patrol.
Was it? I thought that was 2.
I thought that was 3. I might be wrong. I think it was the 3rd one I watched the most. But
4 was Mission to Miami, wasn't it? Or was that 5? 5 was Mission to Miami.
Yeah.
Fuck me. There were 7 of these films.
Yeah, I definitely watched the 1st and the 7th one. I think it was Police Academy 3 I watched a lot of. 3, sorry, very quickly. Oh, no, I pressed 4. Shit. I mean, do you actually like those films? Because we talked about it before. I think it would be interesting. Oh, sorry, Back in Training. That was it. Citizen on Patrol was the second one. My apologies.
Okay. Didn't mind the first one. I liked the first one. It was a bit edgier. And then
I think the first one was actually, listen, I can't say definitively because there are a handful of movies which it could have been. It might have been my first introduction to boobs on screen.
Kim Cattrall.
Yeah, like yeah, but did she get her tits out?
I don't think she got them out.
No, I'm sure there was a sequence when they're like, I don't know, like I've got it in my head that it was like a kind of like, spying on the girls' changing room thing when they just random, because it was the 80s. They always had to have a sequence where it's just like, let's have tits on screen.
You had to have a Porky's moment.
Yeah, it was basically a Porky's moment. It was either something like that, or it was like Beverly Hills Cop. Just one, like any number of 80s movies where they just had random tits. Die Hard, it could have been Die Hard. Yep. There's just random tits at the start of that film everybody forgets about. But anyway, sorry, let's get on to next week, because that has been 2008 Speed Racer. That was my choice. What are you going for, Ben?
So I already said it was a toss-up between two random different films, by the way. It was either Leon, which...
So that's all I know for a fact. It's definitely not Leon.
It's definitely not Leon. And I think you're either never going to get it, or you're straight away going to get it. Not like, from the year, but from...
What was the film you talked about earlier with Josh Hartnett? Habuki, what the fuck it was? Bunraku, Jesus Christ. I'm going to have to give that a go at some point.
Yeah, you definitely do. Right. So the year is 2002.
2002. So not Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
No.
I think that might have been 2003. And it was 2002 or 2003. Anyway, doesn't matter. Definitely not that.
Definitely not that one.
Going to need a bit more than that.
Okay, this is where I think you're either going to not get it or you're going to get it straight away. Sean Pertwee.
Sean Pertwee. It's just, I'm not getting it.
Okay. And speaking of Bunraku, Kevin McKidd.
Who's Kevin McKidd?
He is a Scottish actor. You'll know his face if you see it. He did lately, bless him. I think he's like in a lot of Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, okay. But there's not like an obvious film I'd know him from other than this.
Yeah. He was Tommy in Trainspotting.
Tommy in Trainspotting.
He was the friend that didn't do drugs and then went to the sex.
Yeah. Oh, I'm drawing a complete blank.
Wow, I thought you would have got it. Okay, you're going to get it from this one, I'm sure. The director is Neil Marshall.
Dog Soldiers?
Yeah, spot on.
Oh, Jesus, yeah I should have. Yeah, of course he's in that. Yeah. Bizarrely, I've only seen Dog, and my big attachment to Neil Marshall films is The Descent. I fucking love The Descent. Yeah. But I watched Dog Soldiers once, and I thought it was okay. But I watched it like when I was in university or something, and I just never went back to it for some reason.
So I
know loads of people hold it in like super high regard.
This is a Speed Racer moment, sort of. I totally judged it when it came out. British soldiers fighting werewolves. Yeah, not for me. Not gonna watch it. Not gonna bother. 2002 it came out. I think I caught it then, probably 2008, 2009. Speed Racer time. Absolutely fell in love with it. Still to this day, hold it in high regard. Haven't watched it since mid 2010, so I can't tell you if it holds up. But I absolutely adored this film when I watched it. So
yeah, I think it's just one of those, like, you can watch movies at a certain time. Like, I definitely didn't see it in the cinema because I remember it was held in relatively high regard, and I watched it and I thought it was fine, but it just didn't like capture my imagination. But I'd be more than willing to revisit it. As I said, The Descent was the one that really, like, I thought was close to like a kind of something of a horror masterpiece. But then Neil Marshall's had like a really patchy track record since then. Yeah. But that'll be part of the fun of like next week when we're talking about his other films, because I suspect we'll have very different opinions.
I know which one. If he did he gave us Doomsday, didn't he?
Yes, he gave us fucking
yeah, looking at your face, I fucking love Doomsday.
Doomsday is ass, dude. It is complete ass. I suspect this is good. Don't get me wrong. I remember this being better than Doomsday. That could be another future podcast. Maybe if I go back and revisit Doomsday.
To be fair, mate, if I go back and rewatch it, I'll probably hate it.
Doomsday had such a great premise. I remember being so... It was like Ronan Mitra, wasn't it, as well?
It was Ronan Mitra, and it was basically just like Escape from Glasgow, wasn't there, or whatever it was?
Yeah, it was like, Escape from Scotland with Ronan Mitra at the peak of like a FHM powers. And I was just like, oh, dude, it's from the guy who brought us the fucking Descent. I couldn't have been any more on board. And I watched it, I was like, oh man, this is rough. But like I said, I never felt that way about Dog Soldiers.
Half of the guys from this film. I think Sean Pertwee was in that. I think the guy that played Spoon was in that. So,
oh, yeah. I think he had a lot of crossover there. But anyway, yeah, I think that's a great choice. I think it'd be really interesting to rewatch. Is there any way it's easy to find for those?
So it is. Dog Soldier's currently on Amazon Prime, I believe, for free, as long as you're a member.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So an easy watch.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And I suspect it's one of those films that's probably not that long. I don't think we've got another 2 hour, 50-minute speed race from the back.
No. I think you're okay. I think it
90 minutes, 95 minutes.
Yeah, I think it goes at a clip. Oh no, did I just do that? It's an hour and 45, so it's longer than we would have thought, but it's not too long. It runs at a clip.
It's not too bad.
So, yeah.
No, an hour and 45 is totally acceptable for a horror film. It's when it gets up over 2 hours. That's insisting upon itself as far as I'm concerned. It's like, you better be the fucking Shining if you're over 2 hours. And I suspect this film isn't The Shining. Yes. Although, like I said, I'm going in with open eyes. What's that?
Guess how long Bunraku is.
Is that one of those 86 minutes or something?
2 hours and 5 minutes. So it's one of those. It better be even fucking Shining if it's over 2 hours.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Although I'm sure there's got a higher concept than this, but yeah, to be honest, I'm all for a werewolf film. I haven't seen a really good werewolf movie in a while. Probably the last really good one I watched is for this podcast when we did American Werewolf in London. We really should do The Howling.
I was literally about to say that. Then yeah, we should do The Howling.
Never seen The Howling. Have you seen The Howling?
I've seen random ones. We've talked about this before. I think I've seen 1, 5, and 7 or something like that.
So many Howlings.
Yeah.
But the first is genuinely held in high regard. It's just one of those films that's always...
and there's a remake coming out
I think
soon,
maybe we should hide that for Halloween this year. But
we'll
get on to The Howling.
There's a remake of The Howling coming out, I believe, as well. So
that feels long overdue, if truth be told.
Yeah.
It just feels like the kind of series that would have been remade fucking 20... Anyway, doesn't matter. We're doing this film instead. But yeah, so that has been 2008 Speed Racer. Please do join us next week for 2002's. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, sir.
Dog Soldier. Anything else to add before we wrap this up?
Yes, I'm going to say it again. The title Bunraku is derived from a 400-year-old form of Japanese puppet theatre, a style of storytelling that uses 4 foot, 1.2 meter tall puppets with highly detailed heads, each operated by several puppeteers who blend into the background wearing black robes and hoods. This classic tale is reimagined in a world that mixes skewed reality with shadow play fantasy. Its themes draw heavily on samurai and Western films. And it's available on Amazon Prime.
It sounds fun. I might give it 10 minutes on Amazon Prime, see if it grabs me.
You can't give it 10 minutes. You have to rent it. If you're going to rent it, do the 2
hours.
Oh,
I see. Yeah. If I'm going to pay for it, which, by the way, I'm fucking not going to pay for it. It was one of those, if it was on Amazon Prime and it's just ready to rock, then I'd give it a bash.
You know how I know you're going to pay for it? Because I am picking it. If you don't watch it on your own, I'm picking it.
Fantastic fucking Banraku. The finally an episode where nobody listened to it. That might be the one. But anyway, I've been Liam. He's been Rob. And you've been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.